Welcome to the 10th episode of Coffee and Careers with Shivani, where we brew bold conversations on leadership, transformation, and navigating careers with clarity and courage. Today's guest is someone who has not only shaped organizations, but also shaped the very meaning of leadership across borders and industries. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Mr. Amit Chincholikar, Group President HR at the Hinduja Group and a stalwart in the HR world with an illustrious journey spanning over 2 decades. Amit has consistently championed people, purpose, and performance. He's known for driving cultural change, leading global transformations, and creating talent strategies that are as human as they are high impact. Across organizations like Yokohama, the Tata Group, Aditya Birla Group, and internationally at Novelis US. So grab your coffee and let's get into rich conversation with a leader who leads both from heart and head. Amit, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Yeah, thanks so much for those kind words, Shivani. Needless to say, it sounds great and terrifying all at once when you call it out the way it is. But it's my pleasure, as you walk through from the single digit of your, podcast to double digits. So privileged to be the first double digit one there. And
Superb.
I don't think it'll be too long before you move to triple digits and beyond. So privileged to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's a very good motivator for us. And to start today's, that's, I think, a very good nudge to start the conversation today. Amit, you worked across organizations. You worked internationally as well. And you've seen the HR function evolving across sectors and geographies. But what are those core leadership qualities that you think remain timeless, no matter the context, the industry, the geography? I'm sure people would love to hear that from somebody who's worked across various industries, worked across geographies. How does that work?
So of course there are multiple sets of things, I think, Shivani, and that's a great question because you could talk a lot about authenticity, integrity, trust, leadership, etc., and all of them obviously have their value. But
Yeah,
in my view, there are three that really are enduring leadership qualities that make for leaders who are not just respected but also admired. I
right.
think the first is about staying curious to stay relevant. So
Mm,
a lot of times, in my view, leadership is not about just providing answers, but it's
mm,
also about asking questions to which you may not have the answers. So I think there's a fine line between asking questions to seek accountability and simply asking questions because you don't know. So, like I said, stay curious to stay relevant. I think that's the first.
excellent.
The second is I say do as you say and say as you do. And I don't
Yeah,
say this from the point of view of just authenticity, integrity, commitment, etc. I also commit it from the point of view of staying very close to the pulse of the organization in
mm,
terms of where business gets run. Because at the end of
mm,
the day, my belief is we are only in two businesses. We are in the business of consumers because every business is a consumer business, and we are in the
yeah,
business of trust. And the
right.
only way these two can happen is if you do as you say and say as you do, which in my mind is important because it translates to being very closely in touch with what's happening.
Yeah.
The third one is, I think, recognizing that you need to take your work seriously, but you don't have to take yourself that seriously. So
Wow.
there is something that you do for work
Yeah,
or professionally, and there is something you do for enjoyment. And I think
right,
if you have a combination, to me, it's a very critical leadership quality that you have something to look forward to do outside of work that you do for pleasure. And the key
right.
difference is, and the way I call out the key difference is, if you enjoy running, it's great. But
Mm,
when you run for enjoyment, you don't time yourself, right?
yeah,
So whatever you do, as long as you do it for enjoyment, I think it's very important because in my view, the key to leadership is not just what you do, but who you are. And who you are comes out from having a life, a passion, and something to do outside of work that truly you enjoy. So to my mind, these are three enduring leadership qualities that I think are important over a period of time.
superb. I think that's a brilliant, answer. And I think all the three that you mentioned are, if we see leaders who are successful in their respective realms, I think somewhere all the three things that you mentioned, whether it is the credibility part, do what you say, or staying curious to stay relevant, and the third one, I think definitely true for leaders who've been very very successful. We had Harjeet Khanduja as one of the speakers, and such a such a successful and respected HR professional in the industry, but has a passion that he follows, which is in the form of writing stories, writing books, writing, humor. He's also been on one of the TV shows. So I think the last point that you said, that enjoy, apart from you have a professional life, but apart from that, it's very important to have a passion. Because that defines who you are, and that's what defines a leader. It's not what it is, it's not what they are, but who they are. And I thought that was a very relevant point. But Amit, asking you, so what do you do for enjoyment? How do you, what's your passion? And how do you keep a balance between the two? Because being a group head HR is not a small responsibility. And I'm sure your calendar would be very packed. So, how, first of all, what is your passion and how do you find time for it?
I have a bit of background, not by qualification, but by interest in theater. I do
Okay.
a lot of quizzing. I've done a bit of
Wow.
I've done a bit of stand up as well. So I think anything that
Okay.
allows, you know, not just me, but people that I work with to loosen up a little bit is something that I, in that sense, truly enjoy. I also like to read a lot
Hmm.
about the human body per se, because to my mind that's the best machine that's ever built. So things
Right.
around, and it's something you just know enough, and you never know enough about. So, and because every body is unique in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So what is it that takes, what is it that are how is it that you're able to understand and listen a lot more to your body, from that
Yeah.
point of view, is something that I've kind of started reading and absorbing a little bit more of, because it's the only one you have, right? So you might as
Yes.
well make sure that you're comfortable being in it. So it's not just
Mm.
about physical exercise, but it's also a little bit about things like inflammation, a little bit
Hmm.
of it's not just about what you eat, but it's about how you do it. It's a little bit about how is it that you keep your mind, and I distinguish between keeping it alert and keeping it active, because I
Hmm.
think mind staying active is important when you're awake, but you should sleep like you're dead to the world. So
Yeah.
I've been doing a little bit of reading around that, more from the point of view of saying it's a fascinating machine, um,
Super.
and we never know enough about it from that point of view. So yeah, lots of stuff that keeps one busy, and uh, I'm a great believer in work life integration, not so much work
Hmm.
life balance.
Hmm.
So work life integration allows you to kind of do this if you're pretty clear on what you want to do.
I love the integration word because I think the term work-life balance is being done to death. And I think when you try and find a balance between the two, there is actually not possible to find. It's not like a beam balance, but integration is a beautiful way to describe it because uh, you have, you spend a lot of time at work, but then you also have a personal life. So how do you sort of integrate the two that it becomes meaningful to sustain both. I love that analogy. And I'm so happy to hear somebody talking about reading books other than HR and leadership. I'm so happy you said that you're reading different stuff. You're reading stuff about what interests you about the body, and like they say, it's the only place we have to live. So of course, of paramount importance to know as much as we can about it. Super, great. Good to know the other side of you, Amit, apart from all the good things that you've done in HR. Amit, you've led organizations in your leading organization where you have multi-generational workforces, especially in your current organization, which has a legacy of many years. I'm sure there are people from different generations. Now, as an HR leader, what are the strategies that you have found effective in fostering the kind of collaboration, amongst different age groups so that it is beneficial and meaningful for the organization? How do you ensure that you would have a Gen Z, you would have somebody who's worked with the organization or is working with the organization for 30 plus years. So, how do you ensure the synergy between different workforces?
So I think, at the risk of sounding a little provocative, I think this whole thing of multi-generational workforce, in my view, is a bit overdone. And let me
Mm-hmm.
tell you why I feel that way. I think if you go back to the concept of the joint family concept,
Mm.
right? It's pretty much a multi-generational situation that exists there. Does it mean that there is no conflict? Obviously, there is bound to be conflict.
Mm.
But I would
Yeah.
argue, that that conflict existed even if you didn't have multiple generations. So it's not like people of the same generation get along like a house on fire,
Mm.
at any given point in time. In any case, so my view is this:
Mm.
I think it's about having a fundamental set of um, core beliefs
Yeah.
that you believe define you as an organization. And in my view, those should be really few. Because if you have people who are coming with multiple sets of backgrounds, it has nothing to do just with age, right? Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we are all products of our experiences.
Yeah.
We like
True.
or dislike certain things based on what
Absolute.
we've experienced.
Mm.
So it is going to be very difficult to have people change those beliefs.
Mm.
Is my view. So we've got to respect the fact that people will have different beliefs, irrespective of age, generation, etc. In my view, that is not a significant factor. Where I
Mm.
think the focus ought to be is to say that we must recognize that you don't have to be in love with people to work with them. You must
Right.
recognize, therefore, that differences will exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
How is it that you are able to walk past those differences? And the
Yeah.
only way you're able to do that is you say there are only 4 or 5 core fundamentals, right? For example,
Yes.
if you say that there are certain non-negotiables that exist in the
Mm.
organization, right? And again, a lot of it comes down to values. A lot of it comes down to how is it that we will get work done,
Mm.
etc. All of that. I think it generally simplifies the whole process of people having to work together in a setup. I think what happens is we codify too much.
Mm.
We put out
Yeah.
too many do's and don'ts. Like I
Yeah.
mean, if you were to talk of the whole battle around having to come to office 5 days a week versus
Mm.
complete remote working. And I think
Mm.
what brings out the worst reactions in people is when you polarize.
Yeah.
So you say you
Very
will
true.
either do this or you do that. But if your
Yeah.
premise is to say that, look, my idea is work should get done, I'm
Mm.
willing to provide flexibility,
Mm.
provided we all behave like reasonable human beings.
Yeah.
So, which means as long as you put trust at the heart of
Yeah.
flexibility,
Yeah.
in my view, you should not worry about whether someone is in office 3 days a week, 5 days a week, etc. As long as things are getting done with this
Yeah.
construct, which means it is really not down to having an organizational view on this. It is
Mm.
having either a team view or having a manager versus team member view to be able to sort that. And I think we should let people sort that all out on their own, because see, we spend
Mm.
all our lives telling our children grow up, and
Mm.
when they grow up and they come into the workplace, we start treating them like children. I think that's where the gap
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah.
multi-generational workforces, effectively, as long as you don't put out too many conditions for
Mm.
people to kind of do it, you clearly
Mm.
define expectations and outcomes, saying, look, this is the
Mm.
outcome one seeks. Right? If
Mm.
you go back, there are some children. If you go back to academics, there are some children who
Mm.
study through the night. There are
Yeah.
some who are happy to wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
There are some who don't like to study at all. There are some
Mm.
who are visual learners. They all
Mm.
coexist, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why is it that suddenly dramatically changes when you come to the workplace? I mean, I understand
Mm.
accountability, I understand outcomes, I understand.
Yeah.
So it baffles me when we start putting these into age-based generalities to say young people want more flexibility and older people
Mm.
always want to see people in office. In my experience,
Mm.
that's never been the case.
Mm.
So I think if you are able to, put out very few kind of
Rules, like
guardrails, if I
boundaries.
say,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
but then those you follow relentlessly. So after
Mm.
that, if there is a deviation of that, you should be able to make an example of that. The
Mm.
problem is you set out too many policies and then you say, I will show me the face and I will show you the rule. That's where the
Yeah.
problem, because that's where trust breaks down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, it's a bit provocative, but to my mind, this whole multi-generational workforce thing is a bit
Hmm.
overrated.
Hmm.
Because my son sometimes laughs at my ability with technology, but it doesn't
Hmm.
come in the way of his having a conversation with me when he needs help. And that's exactly the
Right.
way I see the workplace. So
Right. Great. That's a very different perspective, Amit, I must say. What I hear you saying is that as long as we don't put those, as long as there are no guardrails put, that there is a one particular way of working, and there is the somewhere we choose the midway, which is built on trust.
yeah,
Then it works. But honestly, it's all about trust. And if you ask me, the organizations that I work with now, what I have seen is that it's really not about people not wanting to come to office or people wanting to come to office. It's actually how the leaders at the top. It's the trust quotient.
yeah,
uh, you know, the whole world worked from home in 2020 and 2021. Still, businesses ran. Still, businesses did well. And now wanting to call people back because there is being in office brings more efficiency. I think it's not about efficiency, it's about the trust part, where either you trust your people or you don't trust your people. It is something that a lot of leaders struggle with. Um so i i uh, i have a very different point of view on this, and my point of view echoes with yours. Um and about the multi-generational workforce, I think the midway works the best. If you're clear on the accountability, if you're clear on the deliverables that people are supposed to do, it's their choice whether they want to do it from office or they want to do it from work, as long as the work gets done. But again, that boils down to the trust part. It boils down to, am I in control?
yeah.
Because what I see, I'm in control with what I see, but what I don't see, what are people doing at home? I think that's more of a leadership issue, and not a generational issue. That's my view on this. Amit, you must have heard of this term called quiet quitting. It's doing the rounds a lot these days. Have you experienced this in your organization? And in your view, organizations that experience this, what can they do? Because it is very unsettling for an organization when people quietly quit. It just sort of disrupts the business. So, what's your advice for organizations like this, which are battling with this kind of problem?
So look, quiet quitting, in my view, happens for three reasons. One is because people simply want to do a lot more than a job. And
Hmm.
what's happened is you will find quiet quitting typically happens when you're, how shall I say, born in privilege sometimes, which is that you say, listen, I've got different things to do, and this
Hmm.
just doesn't fit in. And there is a lot more that I want to see. I want to explore the world. I want to travel. I want to do blah, 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 which
Hmm.
comes when you are born in privilege. It allows
Hmm.
you the opportunity to be able to do that. I
Hmm.
think that is something that you cannot do anything to stop, because those are choices that people make, and you should
Hmm.
respect those choices, right? All you can
Hmm.
do, and there is no way you can predict that either.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
all I'm saying is we must recognize that there will be some degree of quiet quitting, and it may have nothing to do with the organization. And I think that realization came to me wherein you realize that there could be outstanding performers who simply want something else to do which you cannot offer. And if you cannot offer it, there is no point feeling guilty about it.
Yes.
Right? That's one part. The second part is, I think we talk a lot to our people, but we don't listen enough.
Hmm.
And listening, I think, comes from asking fundamental questions that, appeal to what really matters to people. Uh,
Hmm.
and very, there is an old Hindi movie called Golmaal, the original
Hmm.
old Golmaal with Amol
Hmm.
Palekar and Utpal
Amol
Rai.
Palekar. Yeah.
Right? And there is a conversation that's happening between a daughter and her father there, where,
Hmm.
between Vidya Goswami and Utpal Dutt. And Utpal that tells Bindya Goswami to say, at some stage about her choice of marriage and all that, he tells her,
Hmm.
तुम्हारी शादी उससे नहीं होगी जिससे तुम प्रेम करती हो,
Hmm.
तुम्हारी शादी उससे होगी जिससे
जिससे
मैं
मैं
प्रेम
प्रेम
करता
कर
हूँ.
रहा हूँ. Yeah.
Now, and to me, that is at the very heart of quiet quitting, which is
Hmm.
you can't decide for people,
Yeah.
right? You can offer choices to people. And again, it really comes down to how is it that you're able to outline expectations on what do you expect? Do
Yeah.
you focus on effort? Do you focus on outcomes? So, a lot of quiet quitting happens because we don't talk to our people enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, very often what happens is we restrict our talking to maybe chatbot surveys or
Hmm.
sometimes through annual or biannual surveys, etc.
Hmm.
Look, surveys give you information that is, how shall I say, collated, compiled,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It takes away the factor, and you don't have quiet quitting that happens on a collated, compiled basis.
Yes.
It will give you organizational triggers, but it will never
Yeah.
tell you what's really
Bothering. Yeah.
an individual.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, for example, to answer your question, you normally have a standard around every HRBP to how many employees, right? So you set up
Hmm.
some construct, some system. You say 100 to 150 employees, etc.
Yeah.
Is there a way that every HR business partner can decide that I will have a conversation with each of my employees at least once every
Hmm.
quarter? It
Hmm.
could be a 5-minute chat to say, hey,
Yeah.
listen, how are things? Are things going okay? Is something, you don't have to go around probing whether something's that bothering you. But you say that, listen, are you on top of stuff? Is there anything we need to do? What is working? What is not working? I think just the sense of being heard is a very, very important skill or a very, very important touch point that we sometimes
Absolutely.
miss because
Yeah.
I think very often it's not about the fact that something's bothering me and there's something that can be done. It's just that no one's listening to what my situation is.
Right.
And if
Right.
you decide, therefore, that whatever rule you apply, right, you've got 150 people and you want to talk to everybody once a quarter, and you've therefore got, let's say, 90 days and you take off whatever, you've got 50 days,
Hmm.
right? Let's say every quarter. All it means
Hmm.
is three conversations a day for 10
Hmm.
minutes. And I'm
Hmm.
sure in a schedule, where,
You
we are
can take
whatever,
out that time. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But you've got
Yeah.
to do it with diligence, commitment, and regularity. Because, I
Yeah.
always say that between half the job gets done if you simply turn up. And turn
Yeah.
up meaning turn up not physically, but turn up by saying, listen, we will do this conversation. I just want to
Yeah.
know. So you can
Yeah.
create a high touch HR organization that gives you a far greater pulse of what's
Yes.
really happening in the
Yes.
system, much more than any other survey would tell you. I'm not denying the relevance or
Absolutely.
importance of surveys. All I'm saying is it doesn't take away
Yeah.
to your experience. So it's like when you order food from Zomato, right? You will look
Hmm.
at the rating of
Yes.
something at 4.7. But if your experience is poor, that
Hmm.
4.7 will be irrelevant.
Doesn't mean, yeah. Doesn't
So
mean
I think,
anything.
if you are
Hmm.
able to create a what I call as a high touch, high conversation HR team,
Yeah.
then I think you will be able to identify why is it that quiet quitting is happening. See, quiet
Right.
quitting will continue to happen. It's just that it shouldn't come to you as a surprise.
Yeah.
Is where I'm coming from.
I agree with you totally. And, Amit, I work as a fractional CHRO for a couple of organizations where one of my key roles is to just meet, with people
Right.
and, schedule those one-on-ones, even if they're for 10-15 minutes, but just, a touch point. And you would be surprised that there are some people who are just waiting to be heard.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
that, nobody's asked them anything and they just want to be heard. And a lot of, I've been able to manage a lot of attrition conversations just by, listening to the person because the issues were so small that if somebody would have heard of those issues earlier, probably, they wouldn't have really even thought of quitting. So sometimes people are just waiting to be heard and it's about making that first step. But I'd also like to add one more thing to what you said, Amit. While it's important to have an HR team or a function that is ready for conversations and has focused conversations and one-on-ones with people, but I think there is one step more that is required, that when people are telling you something, are you really acting on it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I
in my
agree.
experience, quiet quitting happens when people have said what they have to say, they have
There's
told
no
you,
action.
the issue, but
You're
there's no
right.
action.
I agree.
So people then, become indifferent. Then the onus is not on them to tell you that they're going to leave. You should take it for granted that they will leave if nothing is done. So I think one is, like you said, very good idea to have conversations, and I really believe in the power of having a one-on-one conversation with employees. But more importantly, acting upon what people are saying. You know the pulse, but what are you doing with that pulse? I think that is where quiet quitting happens the most, when people see that there's no difference. Even if I tell HR or doesn't tell HR, nothing happens. But when something happens, it's the message also that goes around in people that if you, go and share, there'll be things that will be worked upon and not sort of, used against you, or, all those sort of things that happen. So that again, it comes to a safe culture. How safe a culture are you creating? I think a lot of that depends on this.
No, no, I think
Great. Yeah.
absolutely spot on, Shivani. I mean, I'll just say that if we miss closing the loop, and sometimes I think
Yeah.
what also happens is we must understand that sometimes we are in a profession that we don't always have to be popular in, right?
Yeah.
There will
Yeah.
be uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
You
Yes.
should be able to find a way when someone's raised an expectation to go back and respectfully say, look, I checked. I don't think it's possible for these reasons. I hope you
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Even if you're not able to do it, it's important to go back and, loop back
Spot
with the
on.
person. I
Spot
I,
on.
I think it's
Because
very
that
important. Yeah.
that is the difference between being heard and
Yeah.
no action. So, because you don't go back and say, look, this is not going to make me look good.
Yeah.
I always say that, if you want to make everybody happy, you should sell ice cream. Then you shouldn't be in a HR role. So
Or
yeah,
as in
spot on.
Punjab, we say, make aloo paranthas. You're not an aloo parantha. You can't make everybody happy.
Yeah,
That's a
good. Perfect. Yeah, yeah. No, great
yeah.
point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think a lot of times HR people hold back because they feel that it's uncomfortable news. So why should I,
Yeah, yeah,
have that unpleasant conversation? But I think people respect you and value you more if you close the loop with them, even if you've not been able to, do it for whatever reasons. But if you honestly tried, it tells people that you've at least tried.
yeah, yeah.
And happened, it didn't happen, it's not, and they also understand it's not in your purview. Everything is not in our purview. You're not a decision maker.
Sure.
So I totally get that. Great, superb conversation, Amit. Now, coming to careers. There are people who at some point in time feel that their careers have sort of, stagnated, or, there's a plateau, that they've hit. So, what's the mindset shift you would advise for such people, especially people who feel like they've sort of hit the rock bottom in their careers? What is your advice? Because, as a mentor, the maximum number of mentorship assignments that I do are on people who are stuck in career stagnation, and it's not an easy feeling to live with. So, what's your advice for such people? What is it that they can do to come out of it?
Uh, so that's an interesting one. It's like this. I think we all have our own definitions of career stagnation. I think that's point number one. The
Hmm.
first question that I would always ask or urge someone to think about is your feeling of stagnation coming from within, or
Hmm.
is it coming for the need to seek external validation? So, is it because you're not doing as well as your batchmate that you feel you're stagnating? Is it that you
Yeah.
feel, so that's external validation, right? Or is it because you are not able to fulfill a financial obligation that you thought you wanted to, which is why you feel your career is stagnating? Or is
Yeah.
it because you genuinely feel that you are putting in your best effort,
Hmm.
yet it is not yielding the appropriate kind of results? Right? So these
Yeah.
are the only three reasons why you believe you may be stagnating. So I always
Yeah.
like to equate this, and it comes back to being curious about the human body as a machine. It's like
Hmm.
if you're on a weight loss journey, right? Or
Hmm.
if you want to be on a weight loss journey, it's very important to identify what is the problem, yet what is the symptom.
Hmm.
So very often the symptom comes down to for example, the fact that you're not losing weight could simply be because you're eating the wrong kind of food, or you're not
Right.
balancing food with diet, or it could simply be hereditary, or maybe
Yeah.
there is something else which could be a thyroid that is causing the problem. It's
Hmm.
very important to be able to therefore identify
Diagnose. Hmm.
where is it that you're falling short. And very
Yeah.
often, I think people struggle with an honest assessment. because you tend to
Mm.
externalize the problem always, right? You say, listen, I'm doing my best. Now I don't know what more I should be doing.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the biggest step that one needs to make if one is in a career stagnation phase is to accept that it's okay to be vulnerable and go and ask a question to someone to say, listen, what do you think I'm missing?
Mm.
The second is,
Mm.
what is your definition of success, right? So very often, if I don't get promoted every 3 years, if that's what you're
Mm.
seeking,
Yeah.
at some stage that will die. You
Yeah.
can't get promoted once every 3 years for the rest of your life
Correct.
or your career.
Correct.
So I think if people are able to identify, and again, I've basically come down to three things. One is people stop being relevant,
Mm.
which means they believe what got them here will take them there, which is never the case.
There. Yeah.
So they stop just being relevant. So they say, just because you got here by doing something,
Yeah.
have you thought about what is required to go to the next step?
Mm.
The second is growth always comes with trade offs.
Mm.
What I mean is that choices have consequences.
Mm.
You can make the choice, but the consequence is out of your control. So,
Mm.
for example, if I say
Yeah.
that I am not, if I have to be fixed in a particular location,
Mm.
no problem, right? It's a choice you make because you have prioritized something which makes you believe that this is the location I need to be in. The
Yeah.
consequence could be that there could be outstanding roles that exist in other places that offer you career growth
Mm.
or whatever you want to do. But because you've made a choice, now you are not able to get those.
Mm.
So we must recognize that we all make informed choices
Correct.
because you can't make a
Absolutely.
choice and then regret the consequence. So I
Yes.
think, in my view, like for example, we'll say, I want work life balance, and then you complain about joining a startup. Oh,
Mm.
yeah, but please
It's a
understand there
choice
is
that you
variance,
made.
right? It's not
Yeah.
going to be, working in that area. Third is, I think we always, as human beings, tend to overestimate our own ability,
Mm.
right? We always believe that we are much better than what we actually are. Of course,
Mm.
there is a portion of us who still kind of, I won't use the word suffer from an inferiority complex, but always
Mm.
think that they are not as good. But
Mm.
very often when we look in the mirror, we see an
Mm.
image of someone who's, we think that we are far better than who we actually are.
Mm.
And when it
Mm.
comes from an honest assessment of you're
Mm.
able to recognize what is it that is not working well as far as I'm concerned. Because if you look at
Mm.
significant stagnate, matters of stagnation or significant career derailers, they are not
Mm.
very fundamental aspects. They are very simple
Mm.
things, right? It's about how you treat people, as an example.
Yeah.
Right? That
Yeah.
now what will happen is up to a point you will go through as a bull in a china shop, but suddenly your ability to deal with people will be flagged at some point as something to say
Mm.
that you cannot get beyond a particular level, and then you're thinking,
Mm.
hang on, but A, no one told me that was important, and
Yeah.
B, it didn't seem to matter so far. So I think it's very important to focus on blind spots.
Mm.
So
Mm.
if we know what our blind spots are and we start working on some of those, right,
Yeah.
automatically you'll find, that, things kind of getting better. Because I'm a firm believer that there
Mm.
is always place at the top.
Mm.
You will always have opportunity to grow. I mean, fortunately, in a
Yes.
country like India, there is no shortage of opportunity.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
if you are missing your blind spot, right?
Yeah.
If you are making choices and then regretting the consequences, and if you are not finding a way to get adequate feedback to staying relevant,
Mm.
I think these three things. So if people are able to just focus on these three, suddenly you'll find that, you at least have the answer as to why you have stagnated so far. And that becomes a
Mm.
starting point for you to say, therefore,
Mm.
okay, there is stuff I need to kind of change and
Mm.
kind of go through. So I think uh, I apologize if this sounds a little bit deep and a little bit philosophical and therefore
No,
at
no.
heart
It's,
somewhat simplistic. But my belief is that it's the simple things, it's when you solve difficult problems that you succeed, but it's
yeah.
when you are not able to solve simple problems that you fail. So it's about getting those simple things right, in my view, that
Mm.
can provide an opportunity for a turnaround.
Superb. I think, Amit, that was a very, very, I would say, useful answer for a lot of people who are struggling with this. And to your point, I feel what works best for somebody, and this is what I advise people, that when you're facing career stagnation, or there is something that or you want to make a career pivot. A lot of people have questions around, shall I now take the leap of faith, and all of that. I tell them to do a SWOT of themselves. So, because you're the one who can actually see the inner depths of yourself, and if you're honest with yourself, you know what are your opportunity areas.
Yeah.
And that really helps. Like you said, the blind spots. So the moment you sit down with a piece of paper and you start writing, you start doing your SWOT. I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for you to reflect, to introspect, and to come out with some real meaty stuff that you need to work on. And a lot of people get their answers also. When they do a SWOT, they get to know why is it that they are facing this career stagnation. And a lot of times it is what you just mentioned. They don't stay relevant. What got me here will also take me ahead doesn't work in today's time. So I tell them what got you here will not get you there, because you're not working on yourself enough. And that is the number one reason why people feel stagnant. Because with the way things are changing, with so many new opportunities, so many new things happening within the field that you're in, if you don't stay relevant, you don't keep yourself updated, you don't read, you don't network, you are bound to face career stagnation, because you're living in a well, and there are blinders on. So those
Yeah,
blinders will
absolutely.
only take you. You're in a race with yourself, but there is a bigger race happening outside.
Correct.
And race
Correct.
is just a metaphor. I don't mean to say the race part, but it's just a
Correct.
metaphor that you don't know what's outside of that well that you're in. So completely agree with your all your points. I think they were brilliant. We're running out of time. So one last question I have for you, Amit. If you were designing a career toolkit for the next decade, what would be the top three skills in that toolkit or in that book?
Next decade, I think
Yes,
10.
that's too long. 10 years is too long. We
Yeah,
might
I
not
mean,
probably.
I think long term these days for me is 6 months actually. That's the way life is unfolding. But yeah, but I think the principles will still remain pretty
Yeah,
similar, Shivani. I would say,
yeah.
look, there are three things in my view that will happen, that will determine what are the skills that may be relevant. I think
Hmm,
there are new technologies, there are evolving
hmm,
industries, and there are shifting social dynamics. These are three things
hmm,
that are happening. So that's the context, or that's the landscape, if you will. So what are three things that in my view, three key skills? I think we will be required to solve complex problems going forward,
hmm, hmm.
wherein you may not have enough data, you may not
Yeah,
have enough time, and you may not have enough resources. So I think the
yeah.
ability to solve complex problems, which is, I think, a combination of uh, being able to manage with limited information, yet be in a position wherein you have to take a
Take
difficult
up solutions.
decision.
Yeah. Hmm,
So therefore, what I like to say is that if we have enough data, or if we have data that we had when the problem came, that is
hmm,
not sufficient to be able to solve the problem we are trying to solve, right? You're going to
hmm,
be requiring a lot more. So I think your ability to solve complex problems
hmm,
which are not unidimensional.
hmm.
So, they could be political, they could be social.
Yeah.
There are different ramifications, right? I mean,
Hmm,
suddenly the Red Sea shuts down. Imagine what it
hmm,
does to your logistics cost if if you've got to supply freight in different parts. And at that point, you have to anticipate that there will be factors which are out of your control. I think that is one. I
hmm,
think the second very key skill, in my view, going forward is the skill of resilience, which
hmm.
is
Right.
we will continue to fall. We will continue
Yeah.
to fail. The ability to be able to navigate through that, stand up again and do it. And you don't have to be a hero. I'm saying resilience. Um, I mean, if you have to really look at resilience, I always say just
Hmm.
look at our mothers at home, right? To me, that is
Yeah.
the example of resilience, right? There is,
Yeah.
someone else who can have a, cup of chai for you at 5:30 in the morning, uh,
Hmm.
and run a whole day of kind of complexity, and
Yeah.
yet sit with you if you want to
Yeah.
watch a serial with her in the evening, even though she's
Hmm.
tired, and then start
Hmm.
again at 5:30 next morning. is the example of
Mm.
resilience. So I'm saying it's not just about falling down or something like that. That's not the point. I think it's just the
Mm.
tenacity to stay.
Yeah,
Because, between talent and resilience, my theory is that resilience always wins.
always wins.
Yeah. So I
True.
think that's a
Very
that's a
true.
key skill. I think the
Mm.
third is going to be around agility and responsiveness.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it's not about mindless speed, but I think it's about responsiveness to be able to come back, to somebody or to a particular situation. And it's also about agility. So I distinguish speed from agility because
Mm.
agility is about, proactively understanding what needs to be done. And
Mm.
therefore you apply it, in the context that you are in as opposed to speed. So agility simply is about how quickly are you able to turn around, not just a crisis situation, but do you know what a consumer may need 24 months from now? And therefore, your
Mm.
agility is proactively thinking about what is going to kind of be, required in that situation.
Mm.
I specifically didn't mention technology or something like that
Mm.
because, in my view,
That's a given. Mm.
and it's an enabler, it's a baseline.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
I'm saying I don't see that as a key skill, but I see this ability to solve complex, multidimensional problems, resilience, and agility
Mm.
and responsiveness as three key skills that will be important as we go forward.
Excellent. I think I agree with you there, and I would like to add on one more, which is the adaptability and staying relevant. Because the
Yep.
way things are changing, I think one of the key skills that anybody needs to foster today is to be able to adapt to those changes. This is not the time of resistance to any kind of change, because people who resist to change honestly can't survive for a very long time in an organization, in the corporate setup, I would say. So definitely adaptability and staying relevant are the key areas. So network, read up, talk to people, have mentors, look up to people. I mean, wherever you can get information to keep yourself relevant in your field, I think that is a very important aspect. Great. Superb. What a powerful conversation that was, Amit. I truly enjoyed it. Thank you so much, for reminding us that leadership is not just about, scaling titles or managing performance, but it's about staying grounded in values, like you said, and embracing change and, of course, staying relevant. To everyone listening, if you're at the crossroads in your career or simply rethinking how you show up as a leader, I hope today's episode gave you the nudge to pause, reflect, and introspect. As far as your career is concerned, Amit, thank you once again for joining us and sharing your journey with such clarity and authenticity. It's been an honor to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Shivani. I think thought provoking, and we come from a country where thought for food is
Yeah.
more important than food for thought. But thank you
Yes.
for fostering this, because I think a lot of a lot of your questions are, involve deep thinking
Hmm.
and reflection, which is, I think, a skill in today's age of instant gratification, is something that we always struggle with. So thank you for allowing me to do that. Love being
Thank
here.
you. It's a pleasure, and we look forward to having you on our subsequent episodes as well. Um, Thank you. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube for more conversations and fuel in your next big leap. Keep growing and keep thriving.
Keep growing and keep thriving. Thank you, Shivani.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Just pause the recording.